So President Trump's decision today drawing some criticism, as we've said, at home and some abroad. European leaders called it regrettable. You know that they have put together a statement to try to hold the United States into this agreement. President Obama and John Kerry, his former Secretary of State, who's been working behind the scenes to try to convince Zarif, the foreign minister of Iran, to, find a way to stay in this deal. Joining me now, Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He is also a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Good to see you, Senator Coons. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for a chance to be on again, Martha. And I want to convey to Sergeant Bartlett, his story was very powerful, and a reminder that all of us who see Iran clearly as a terrorist threat in the region, Democrats and Republicans, need to continue to work together to make sure that we find a way to successfully constrain Iran's ongoing bad and threatening behavior.
So Sergeant Bartlett, I think, would ask, why would we ever sign an agreement that entailed sending $180 billion in cash to Iran that was then used on things like their effort to kill people in the civil war in Syria? How is that ever a good idea?
Well, first, because we didn't. $180 billion in cash did not get sent to Iran from the United States. But more important than whether or not the number is right is whether or not the spirit is right. I understand why Sergeant Bartlett would be angry about that agreement, and I understand some of President Trump's criticisms of the Iran agreement. It did not intend to deal with the ballistic missile program. It did not intend to deal with their domestic human rights problems, and it did not deal with their support for terrorist organizations in the region. In fact, the Iran deal specifically allowed us to continue to sanction those activities by Iran. What I wish the president had done instead is to work with our European partners, France, Germany, the UK, to impose tough sanctions on Iran for the things they're doing in Syria.
But Senator,
in the support of Hezbollah,
I'm sorry,
in the
don't
region,
you think that's what's going to happen now?
Which I think would be more constructive.
I mean, the president has a very interesting foreign policy doctrine, I think, that is emerging.
Yes,
when you look at all of the different areas that he's working in. He basically says, let's join all of these ideas together. Let's not do, let's join trade. Let's join our trade agreements. Let's look at all of these issues across the board, and let's hold Iran accountable for its behavior. Let's not strike a deal with Iran that doesn't force any behavior change from this country that is the #1 state sponsor of terror. So it's highly likely that at this point we're going to start to see a negotiation that gets closer to exactly what you want.
I hope that is the case. And if it is successful, that would be a good outcome. But, Martha, given that we've got right in front of us the challenge of a nuclear-capable North Korea that has developed ballistic missiles and the upcoming negotiation between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, I did urge him to give the Iran agreement more time and to give our European partners more time. Because, frankly, we now raise questions with them, with the Chinese and the Russians, and with the North Koreans about how reliable we could be in any future agreement. Well, and if Iran chooses to walk away from this agreement and resume enrichment, we don't have a clear answer or a strategy from President Trump and the administration over how we're going to deal with a restarted and renewed Iranian program. Well, the only reason that we had the pressure to really get them to the table in the first place was allies like South Korea, India, and others who stopped buying oil from from Iran. To reassemble the global powers that will force Iran back to the table will take time.
But, one of the things that they want now is for all of those deals with Iran between European countries and other countries to start to be unwound as part of this, to make those sanctions very powerful. Condoleezza Rice, was asked about this earlier this week. She said, if we get out of this deal, it's going to be just fine. She said it was rushed into in the first place, and we gave away a lot of things that we never should have given away. So we'll see. We'll watch what happens, but there's definitely a lot of people who are unhappy with it, as you are tonight, but we'll see. Let's hope for the best. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Martha.
Good to see you tonight.